But there's some students, I mean, I've had some just last semester who, they'll say, Professor Germain, or the books, the articles I have them read, they're so negative about technology, right? And they respond negatively to the negativity of the articles. And the only thing I can say is to that response, that kind of response is, look, everyone is a booster of technology these days, right? I mean, technological development is built into economic development, and so everyone's trying to get you to buy new technologies, to be an early adopter of technologies, and so forth. And I don't think the world needs more boosters of technology. They're everywhere, and it's good to hear an alternative view. And even if the view is negative, it doesn't mean it's wrong, right? I mean, sometimes some negative views are absolutely right. And I just think that, like the book I'm writing, or basically finished, is an alternative story of our technological society that I think is balanced. It's not anti-technology, but it's anti our attachment to it in a particular way. And I think it's a kind of like a corrective, a way of saying, we can do a little bit better than we're doing if we just took our foot off the gas pedal and relaxed a bit. and because I don't know, I don't know how other people view this generally. And I think when you're young, it's hard to get that. You just don't have that life experience to see where it's all going. But I just sometimes think that a lot of what we do technologically is done of boredom. I have family members, who like to buy new toys. And I know my brother, for one, does it often just because he's got a weekend and a few bucks in his pocket and he wants to pick up some new gadget that does something for him. And he often doesn't use it for terribly long or doesn't integrate it into his life in any real way, but he does it anyway, right? And it keeps the economy going, I guess. But apart from that, I don't understand why he doesn't understand that the silliness of the whole thing, that he's being sort of strung along, and that he ought not to be. There's no reason why he should be smart enough to be able to know better. Everyone else is talking about something in a certain way, so they decide to think and talk about it the same way, and everyone else has an iPhone, so of course you've got to have an iPhone, and away it goes, right? I mean, I have a 13-year-old daughter who is the last of her friends not to have an iPhone, of at least 15 or 20. She's the one holdout. And she's a holdout. We tell her, don't worry, you're getting one. It's just not right now. But in a way, she has to have one. Because she's going to be, not ostracized, but, she's just not, it's a social thing. And she can text. She has an iPad and other technologies. She's not out of the loop that way, in a communicative way. But she needs this other piece of technology. And I'm realistic, I mean, I don't think necessarily that's a horrible outcome. But I would like her, or people like her, to be aware of, in some sense, the silliness of it all, that it's not necessarily, it's not necessary to a good life, not absolutely necessary to a good life, to have to check to see, how many likes you're getting, or whom's chatting to whom, and so forth. I just think in the long run, toward the end of your life, you're looking back and you're looking at those moments in your life that were most meaningful to you. They're not going to be those moments. They're going to be other more profound things that happen to you. And I wish, we could all be a little more philosophic before we reach the end of our lives and say, yeah, I know that now, so let me put that damn thing down and, do something else that's more interesting. And I think that's it. There's a lot of literature written on de-skilling, technology and de-skilling, that because we rely, like I said, on smart technologies, we're not as adept at doing things, on our own. And I'm a big fan of craftsmanship. I argue toward the end of the book, I have a little chapter called The Guide for the Disaffected or something, and I say just a couple of little ideas. And one is, work with your hands. Do something that involves manual dexterity or labor, something of this sort. I don't, whether it's gardening or painting or playing a musical instrument or something of this sort, you know. I think it's very therapeutic for one, and it engages, you know, a different part of your brain in a way that is often disengaged these days. I mean, if you look back in the history of thought with Socrates, go way back to the Greeks, you know, the Socratic tradition is a skeptical tradition. You know, he understood that, of course, people have a lot of beliefs and understandings about the nature of justice or all these things, but you know, Socrates was there saying, just because we think this doesn't mean it's the case, right? And would ask people questions to that effect. And I think that's what we have to do today, right? A different context. One of the things that I find troublesome about technology is we tend to think that because technology gives us so much power and the capacity to do so many different kinds of things, that it's limitless, right? That it's other societies had very blinkered vision of things. They saw things from a particular angle, and we're much better than them because we see the big picture, and technology again allows us to do all these great things. So we think we're unfettered, you know, in our thinking, whereas they were. But I think in our own way, what we don't see is our way of thinking is just as narrow as a Christian way of thinking, or maybe a Greek way of thinking. You know what I mean? When we think about the world, we always think about it in technological terms. How can I use this resource better? How can I use it more effectively or efficiently? What can I do with this? You know, we see something and the immediate reaction is, how can I use this? And use it for, you know, my betterment or our betterment. It's always about utility, about efficiency, and so forth. And you know, someone like Baudrillard, and I agree with him, says, you know, we should reclaim the object, you know? The object meaning something that stands in the way of our using it. Just appreciate the fact that it is, right? And that it isn't us, and it isn't doing our bidding, and that it's going to push back if we push it too hard. And I kind of like that, you know? I think it's kind of important to realize that, you know, to be a real human being, a full-bodied human being, we need the object. We need things to push against us. That gives us a sense of our own being a subject, a self, you know, that the world resists our desire to make it totally ours.